everybody. Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Thank you for joining us today to Remembrance Day of 32nd anniversary of Baarin massacre committed by Chinese invaders. Thank you very much. Right now, I am reading a statement of East Turkestan government in exile on behalf of the President of East Turkestan government, Ghulam Osman. This statement will be in Uyghur and then later it will be translated to English. Assalamu alaikum Sharqiy Turkiston xalqi. Assalamu alaikum muhajiratdagi barliq aziz qarindoshlar. Hammamizning hamma vaqtimiz xayrli bo'lsin. Qarindoshlar, bugun 2022-yili 4-oyning 5-kuni. Sharqiy Turkiston tarixidagi eng ahamiyatli kunlarning biri. Chunki 32 yil burun naq bugungi kunda vatanimiz Sharqiy Turkistonda Baarin inqilobi portlagan kun. Bu kunda Xitoy tajovuzchilarining chekidan oshgan zulmiga chidab bo'lolmagan Sharqiy Turkiston xalqi Xitoy tajovuzchilarining planliq tug'ut siyosati ostiga yoshiringan irqiy qirg'inchilik siyosatiga, shundaqla buvoq qatlamiga qarshi urush e'lon qilgan kun. Xitoy tajovuzchilari vatanimiz Sharqiy Turkistonga tajovuz qilib kirgan kundan tortib, Sharqiy Turkiston xalqiga chidag'usiz zulmlarni qilib kelmoqda. Fursat topsalar, Sharqiy Turkiston xalqini qatlam qilib kelmoqda. Siyosiy rahbarlarimizni o'ltirib, o'rniga Uyg'ursimon Xitoy ruhliq jonivorlarni tiklab qo'ymoqda. Yana ong'savisi yuqori diniy zotlarimizni, ziyolilarimizni, boylarimizni va san'atchilarimizni, shundaqla xalqimiz ichidagi har sinfdan kerakli insonlarimizni har turli tuhmatlar bilan qaralab o'ldirib kelmoqda. Bu orqali xalqimiz orasida qo'rqinch paydo qilib, bir tarafdan o'ldirib, yana bir tarafdan aldab, xalqimizning yuragini mujib, Xitoylarga xos diktatorlik tuzumi bilan xalqimizning vijdon ovozini bo'g'ib kelmoqda. Shundaq bir qiyin sharoitda milliy qahramonimiz, qadrli shahidimiz marhum Zaydin Yusuf Sharqiy Turkiston xalqiga Xitoy tajovuzchilarining xalqimizga qarshi olib borayotgan irqiy qirg'inchilikni tafsiliy tushuntirib va ezib tushirib, Sharqiy Turkiston xalqini asosan qoyil qilgan edi. Marhum shahidimiz Zaydin Yusuf va sabdoshlari bu haqda Sharqiy Turkistondagi barliq shaharlarga berib, xalqimiz ichidagi o'qimishli diniy zotlar va ziyolilar bilan ko'rishib, ularga Xitoy tajovuzchilarining irqiy qirg'inchilik qilish planlarini va bu planlarini qanday ijro qilayotganliklarini tafsiliy tushuntirib, ularni qoyil qilgan va xalqning ko'zini ochgan edi. Shahid Zaydin Yusufning tushuntirib berishicha, Xitoy tajovuzchilari planliq tug'ut siyosati orqali Sharqiy Turkiston xalqiga irqiy qirg'inchilik olib bormoqda edi. Chunki Xitoy tajovuzchilari bizning nüfusimizni azaytish orqali bizni oz sonli asonlik ekanligimizga qoyil qilib, milliy ruhimizni sindirishni maqsad qilsa, yana bir tarafdan Xitoy tajovuzchilariga ilhom berib, ularning Sharqiy Turkistonga texnik kirishni osonlashtirish uchun edi. Yana Xitoy tajovuzchilarining atalmish Xinjiangni ichish va gullantirish siyosatini Sharqiy Turkistonni putuliga yutib olish va Sharqiy Turkiston xalqiga qarshi olib borilayotgan irqiy qirg'inchilik siyosatining bir partiyasi edi. Yana Xitoy tajovuzchilarining Sharqiy Turkistonda olib borayotgan atom sinovlarini yana shu irqiy qirg'inchilik siyosatining bir partiyasi edi. Chunki Xitoy tajovuzchilari bu atom sinovlarini Sharqiy Turkiston xalqining yashaydigan yerlariga yaqin yerlarda sinov qilgan edi. Bu sinovlarning maqsadi bo'lib, Sharqiy Turkiston xalqini kasallik bahonasi bilan yo'q qilishning plani edi. Darvaqa Sharqiy Turkistonning janubiy rayonlarida atalmış yuqumli kasalliklar doim yuz berib turadi ve Xitay tecavüzçileri bütün yollarını kanal kılıp hiç kimni hiç yerge bağlı koymay Xitay tecavüzçileri tarafından maksatlik elip beravattan irqiy qirg'inchilikning oshkori bo'lib ketishining oldini oladi. Yana Xitay tecavüzçilerining vatanimiz Sharqiy Turkistonga tajovuz qilib kirgandan buyon elib beravatgan butun siyosiy harakatlari va tashviqotlari Sharqiy Turkiston xalqini yo'q qilishni maqsad qilgan edi. Mayli siyosiy rahbarlarimizga qilingan suiqasdlar bo'lsin yoki vatanparvar diniy olimlarimizga ve ziyolilarimizga bo'lgan suiqasdlar bo'lsin va yoki tijoratchi baylarimizga qilingan suiqasdlar bo'lsin, hammasi xalqimizning belini sundirib tashlash ve xalqimizni rahbarsiz ve yetim qaldirish maqsadida olib berilgan siyosiy suiqasdlar edi. Hatto Xitoy tajovuzchilarining Xitoy istixborot qo'li bilan Uyg'urlarni mafiya tarbiyalab, bu manqurt mafiyalarning qo'li bilan Uyg'ur bolalarini qochirib, ko'liga apirib, o'g'irlik qilishi, bulanchilik qilishi, xiroyinchilik qilishi va bu turdagi barliq yomon ishlarga salishi Xitoy tajovuzchilarining Sharqiy Turkiston xalqiga qarshi olib berilmoqchi bo'lgan davlat terrori planining bir partisi edi. Merhum Zeydin Yusuf'un tushuntirishicha, biz mushunda uxlab yetaversak, Xitoy tajovuzchilari oldimizdagi 30 yil ichida bizni butunlay qirib tashlaydi. Xitoy mush qirg'inchilik boshlaganda Xitoy xalqining bizga hissashlik qilib qilishining oldini olish uchun Uyg'urlarni Xitoy xalqiga satga o'stish va nafratlantirish siyosatini o'ynab o'tdi. Normalda Uyg'ur xalqi musulmon bir millat, bundaq yomon ishlarni qilmaydi. Bu yomon ishlarni Xitoy planlab Uyg'urlarga planli holda davlat qo'li bilan qildirib o'tdi. Va qo'lidagi Xitoy axborotlari bu ishlarni va Uyg'urlarning vahshiy, yovvoyi bir osonlik xalq ekanligini oshkora tashviq qiladi. Sharqiy Turkistonda bo'lsa, butun axborot atalmış Milletler İttifakı'nı tashviq qiladi. Ammo qo'lida Uyg'urlarning yomon ve yovvoyi xalq ekanligini tashviq qiladi. Bu shu planlangan irqiy qirg'inchilik boshlanganda bizga Xitoy xalqining va xalqlarning hissashlik oldini olish uchun mushunday tashviqot qilinadi. Bu Uyg'urlarning boshiga kelayotgan baloyo ofatlarning ochiq bir signali. Hozir Yugoslaviya parchalanib ketdi. Endi Sovet ittifoqi parchalanish oldida turmoqda. Bizmi mush paytni chin tutib, vatanimizni ozod qilib olmasak, irqiy qirg'inchilikka uchrashimiz muqarrar. Qarindoshlar, merhum shahid Zeydin Yusuf mushunday keskin fikri ve siyosiy oldin ko'rish qobiliyati bilan Sharqiy Turkiston xalqini Xitoy tajovuzchilaridan qutulmay turib, saodat yuzi ko'rolmaydiganligiga qoyil qilgan edi. Sharqiy Turkiston Jumhuriyatini Xitoy tajovuzchilarining asorat changalidan qutuldirmay turib, Xitoy irqiy qirg'inchilikdan qutulolmaydiganligiga qoyil qilgan edi. Xalqimizmi asalla qoyil bo'lgan edi. Chunki Sharqiy Turkiston xalqi %100 biladi-ki, Sharqiy Turkiston Xitoy tajovuzchilari tomonidan besilingan bir Uyg'ur davlati. Xalqimiz buni bilgachga, ya'ni Sharqiy Turkistonning Xitoy tomonidan besilingan bir davlat ekanligini bilgachga, Sharqiy Turkistonning mustaqilligini asliga keltirishning birdan-bir qutulish yo'li ekanligini bilgachga, Uyg'ur millatining Sharqiy Turkistonda osonlik emas, balki Sharqiy Turkistonning asosiy gavdasini tashkil qiladigan ko'p sonliq ekanligini va birlashsakla Xitoy tajovuzchilarini qo'g'lab chiqara oladiganligiga ishongachga, asalla Zeydin Yusufning bu inqilobiy fikrlarini qabul qilgan va bu urushga Sharqiy Turkistonning ham yeridan shir yurak azmatlar qatnashgan. Ammo afsuslanarli bir ahvol shuki, Sharqiy Turkiston xalqi 32 yil burun tunib yetgan bu irqiy qirg'inchilikni afsuslanarli bir ahvol shuki, Sharqiy Turkiston xalqi 32 yil burun tunib yetgan bu irqiy qirg'inchilikni qisman chet elliklar endi tunib yetyapti. Gerçi xalqaro hukumatlar Xitoyning puli tufaylidan bu irqiy qirg'inchilikni e'tirof qilg'ili bo'lmagan bo'lsa-mu, ammo nurg'un davlatlarning parlamentlari qabul qildi va qabul qilyapti. Ammo biz chet elga chiqib yashayotganlar öz içimizge qarasak, şundaq echilishlik bir ahvalni ko'ramizki, Sharqiy Turkiston davası qilibyapman yoki Uyg'ur davası qilibyapman deyotgan. Hatto Baarin inqilobchilarining ügüneyli deb og'zaki shuar to'laydigan ba'zi Uyg'ursimon kishilarning textcha vatanning ismini Şinjan Avtonom rayoni, Uyg'ur rayoni va yoki Jungoning g'arbiy shimolidagi Şinjan deb atashlari insonning huquqini keltiradi. Siyosiy sahnalarda bunda Xitoycha usul o'ynash amaliyotda Baarin ruhiga xiyonat qilganlik, Sharqiy Turkiston xalqiga xoinlik qilganlik va vatanga osiylik qilganlik hisoblanadi. Qarindoshlar, Yusuf shunday qiyin sharoitda shu mujohidani qaysarligi, musulmoncha maydoni, bahiyani fikri va har kishini qoyil qiladigan o'tkir rahbarlik qobiliyati bilan xalqimizga rahbarlik qilib, shu Baarin inqilobini boshlatgan edi. Afsuski bu haqqoniy inqilob 2 hafta ichida to'xtab qoldi. Chunki Xitoy tajovuzchilari havo armiyasi va quruqlik armiyasini to'liq ishga solib, butun kuchi bilan bosdi. Bechora mazlum xalqimiz o'zlari yasab chiqqan oddiy qurollar bilan Xitoy tajovuzchilariga taqobil turolmasligi tabiiy edi. Xalqimiz qurol yaroqda Xitoy tajovuzchilarining turan ekanligini bilgan bo'lsin. Xitoy tajovuzchilari tarafidan bashara kelgan irqiy qirg'inchilikqa, zulmlarga va qatlamlarga chidab bo'lmay, yetib o'lgicha etib o'l degan falsafa bo'yicha bu inqilobni boshlagan edi. Xalqimiz bu inqilobni boshlashda Sovet ittifoqining yemirilish yo'liga ketib borganligini sezib, kommunizm dunyosi yo'qolishga yuz tutdi. Hozir inqilob boshlasak, xalqaradan yordam kelib qolishi mumkin degan umid bilan boshlagan. Ve şu asasda Pakistan'a yakın tağlarda 2 haftagacha bardoshlik bergan bo'lsa-mu, hech bir davlatdan yordamga erishamagan. Chunki Xitoy tajovuzchilari butun xabarlarni qamal qilg'achqa. Boshqa davlatlar xabar tepib yordam berishga ulgurolmagan edi. Baarin inqilobi Xitoy tajovuzchilari tomonidan qonliq bostirilgan bo'lsa-mu, Ama Sharqiy Turkiston xalqining uyg'onishiga turklik rol o'ynadi. Shundaqla Sharqiy Turkiston xalqining o'lmaganligini va fursat topsila Xitoy tajovuzchilariga qarshi urush qila oladiganligini isbotlab berdi. Qarindoshlar, Baarin inqilobidan o'rnak olaylik. Baarin ruhidan o'rganaylik. Bizga buningdan boshqa chiqish yo'li yo'q. Vatan qutuldirish, ishg'olchilarga qarshi urush qilish dunyoning hech bir qonunida xatolik emas. Biz Baarin ruhiga varislik qila olganda bizga Allohning marhamati keladi. Barakat darvozasi ochiladi. Do'stligimiz va ittifoqligimiz biq surib chiqadi. Allohning marhamatiga erisha olsaklar, Alloh bizga har vaqt vasita, har qanday vasita bilan yordam berishga qodir. O chaqda hozir taqilib qolgan darvozalarning hammasi ochiladi. Bahar mezgilida hamma narsa tirilgandek, Xitoy tajovuzchilari tarafidan o'ldirilgan barliq moddiy va ma'naviy fursatlar tiriladi. Ruhiy va ma'naviy boyliqlarimiz asliga keladi. Shuning uchun biz o'z inqilobchilarimizga, o'z inqilobimizga chiqaylik. Vatanning mustaqilligini asliga keltirish yo'lida birlashaylik. Yaratgan mehribon Alloh hammamizga iymon, hidoyat, g'ayrat, jasorat, mehr, muhabbat, ilm, ma'rifat, maqbul ibodat va aql farosat ato qilsin. Bizni hayot chig'imizda islomiyatdan va o'ladigan chig'imizda tavba va iymondan ayirmasin. Hammalarga ko'p rahmat. Right now Mr. Uyghur, I'm inviting him to read the statement of East Turkestan government in exile on behalf of the President Ghulam Osman. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. Thank you all for joining us. Today, April 5th, is of particular importance for the people of East Turkestan, Today marks the 32nd anniversary of the 1990 Baarin uprising, which later became known as the Baarin massacre. In the spring of 1990, Baarin Township near Kashgar in Chinese-occupied East Turkestan suffered under a reign of Chinese terror unlike any other. As part of its decades-long campaign of colonization, forced assimilation, and population control, China's government was forcing Uyghur and other Turkic women to abort their babies. The villagers of Baarin finally had enough. At the time, they had suffered under 41 years of Chinese occupation, and they just seen 250 local women robbed of their babies. So they peacefully protested, and when that failed, they took up arms to defend themselves from the Chinese invaders. The Chinese occupation forces responded by flooding Baarin Township with People's Liberation Army soldiers, and they began a massive massacre of innocent civilians, including women and children. According to different sources, anywhere from hundreds to thousands of innocent Uyghurs and other Turkic peoples were massacred with heavy weaponry and airstrikes. The tragedy in 1990 was an escalation of China's decades-long campaign of colonization, genocide, and occupation. Yet, the Baarin uprising was also a clear sign of the East Turkestani people's will to resist colonization, genocide, and occupation. Today, the Baarin massacre continues on a daily basis, with millions of Uyghurs, Kazakhs, Kyrgyz, and other Turkic peoples are currently locked up in concentration camps, prisons, and slave labor camps, where they are forcibly indoctrinated, tortured, raped, sterilized, and even killed for their organs. Remote villages across East Turkestan, like Baarin, continue to face ethnic cleansing and extermination campaigns under Chinese occupation. It has now been 8 years since China officially launched this campaign of genocide against Uyghurs, Kazakhs, Kyrgyz, and other Turkic peoples in East Turkestan in 2014. The UN and other major international bodies have remained silent. The silence of the UN has led the US government and the parliaments of Canada, the UK, Belgium, the Netherlands, Lithuania, the Czech Republic, and France to officially designate China's barbaric treatment of Uyghurs, Kazakhs, Kyrgyz, and other Turkic peoples as genocide and crimes against humanity. Despite repeated calls by numerous organizations and parliaments, the UN Commission on Human Rights has failed to publish a report on the situation in East Turkestan. With the UN Commissioner on Human Rights expected to visit East Turkestan in May, China continues to transfer Uyghurs and other Turkic peoples out of East Turkestan to prisons and slave labor factories inside Chinese provinces. The UN has not only failed to investigate China's ongoing genocide, but it also has failed to even publish a report. If the UN is unwilling to investigate, and individual governments and parliaments' recognition of China's atrocities against Uyghurs and Turkic peoples as genocide cannot produce enough pressure to convince the Chinese government to stop, then will the world continue to issue symbolic condemnations and recognitions? Will it act to implement its treaty obligations under the UN Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide? Every year, as a part of the International Holocaust Remembrance Day, governments, politicians, corporations, and leaders of organizations and elites of the world, including business people and celebrities, take to social media to iterate their annual vows to never again. Never again is happening right now, right this very second in occupied East Turkestan. If governments are genuine in their vows to never again, they must fulfill their treaty obligations to prevent and punish perpetrators of the greatest humanitarian crisis of our century, China's ongoing genocide in East Turkestan. In June 2020, the East Turkestan government in exile and the East Turkestan National Awakening Movement filed a legal complaint urging the ICC to investigate and prosecute Chinese officials for genocide. Governments, including the government of Canada, must pressure the International Criminal Court to start investigations before UN Human Rights Commissioner Michelle Bachelet visit to East Turkestan. Furthermore, governments, including Canada, must also file a parallel case at the International Court of Justice. Additionally, it's been 16 years since Hussein Jalil, a Uyghur Canadian citizen, has been unlawfully imprisoned in China. The Canadian government continues to fail to protect its own citizen. We again call on Canada's government to secure the immediate release of Canadian citizen Hussein Jalil. We also urge the government of Canada to uphold its commitments to freedom and human rights by supporting East Turkestan and its peoples, by recognizing East Turkestan as an occupied country, accepting more Uyghur refugees, and being a voice of freedom and justice at the international stage. We again urge Canada to call on the ICC to start its investigation of Chinese officials for the ongoing genocide and other crimes against humanity in East Turkestan. Failure to support East Turkestan's people's legal efforts to end the ongoing genocide and obtain justice will only show that the vows of never again and commitment to human rights and justice are nothing but empty vows. What's even worse, the lack of an international investigation will only embolden China to continue its brutal attempts to eradicate the Uyghurs. As Holocaust survivor Eli Wiesel stated, we must take sides. Neutrality helps the oppressor, never the victim. Silence encourages the tormentor, never the tormented. Governments need to break their silence and voice their support for an international investigation to be carried out regarding China's ongoing genocide and crimes against humanity against the Uyghur and other Turkic peoples of East Turkestan. Thank you. Stand up for the Uyghurs!
Stand up for the Uyghurs!
Stand up for the Uyghurs!
Stand up for the Uyghurs!
Stand up for East Turkestan!
Stand up for East Turkestan!
Stand up for East Turkestan!
Stand up for East Turkestan!
Boycott China!
Boycott China!
Boycott China!
Boycott China!
Sanction China!
Sanction China!
Sanction China!
Sanction China!
Terrorist China!
Terrorist China!
Terrorist China!
Terrorist China!
Fascist China!
Fascist China!
Fascist China!
Fascist China!
China, stop the genocide!
China stop genocide!
China, stop the genocide!
China stop
China, stop the
genocide!
genocide!
China stop genocide!
Go home, China!
Go
Go home,
home, China!
China!
Go home, China!
Terrorist China!
Terrorist China!
Fascist China!
Fascist China!
Go home, China!
Go home, China!
Get out, China!
Get out, China!
Independence for Uyghurs! Justice for Uyghurs! Justice for Uyghurs! Independence for Uyghurs! Freedom for Uyghurs! Freedom for Uyghurs! Independence for Uyghurs! Stand up against China! Stand up against China! Stand up for Uyghurs! Stand up for Uyghurs! Boycott China! Boycott China! Sanction China! Sanction China! Terrorist China! Terrorist China! Fascist China! Fascist China! Killer China! Go home, China! Get out, China! Freedom for Uyghurs! Freedom for Uyghurs! Freedom for Uyghurs! Independence for Uyghurs!
Independence for Uyghurs!
Independence for East Turkestan!
Independence for East Turkestan!
Independence for East Turkestan!
Independence for East Turkestan!
Independence for East Turkestan!
Independence for East Turkestan!
We want freedom!
We want freedom!
We want freedom!
We want freedom!
We want justice!
We want justice!
We want justice!
We want justice!
We need justice!
We need justice!
We need justice!
We need justice!
Justice for Uyghurs!
Justice for Uyghurs!
Justice for Uyghurs!
Justice for Uyghurs!
Independence for Uyghurs!
Independence for Uyghurs!
Independence for East Turkestan!
Independence for East Turkestan!
Independence for East Turkestan!
Independence for East Turkestan!
China, stop the genocide!
China stop the genocide!
China, stop the genocide!
China stop the genocide!
China, stop killing Uyghurs!
China stop killing Uyghurs!
China, stop killing Uyghurs!
China stop killing Uyghurs!
China, end the occupation!
China end the occupation!
China, end the occupation!
China end the occupation!
Get out, China!
Get out China!
Go home, China!
Go home China!
Sanction China!
Sanction China!
Boycott China!
Boycott China!
Terrorist China! Fascist China!
Fascist China!
Fascist China!
Fascist China!
Go home, China!
Go home China!
China, stop the genocide!
China stop the genocide!
China, stop the genocide!
China stop the genocide!
Freedom for Uyghurs!
Freedom for Uyghurs!
Freedom for Uyghurs!
Freedom for Uyghurs!
Freedom for Uyghurs!
Freedom for Uyghurs!
Justice for Uyghurs!
Justice for Uyghurs!
Justice for Uyghurs!
Justice for Uyghurs!
Justice for Uyghurs!
Justice for Uyghurs!
Independence for East Turkestan!
Independence for East Turkestan!
Independence for East Turkestan!
Independence for East Turkestan!
We want independence!
We want independence!
We want freedom!
We want freedom!
We want justice!
We want justice!
We want freedom!
We want freedom!
We want justice!
We want justice!
Go home, China!
Go home China!
Get out, China!
Get out China!
Terrorist China!
Terrorist China!
Terrorist China!
Terrorist China!
Fascist China!
Fascist
Fascist
China!
China!
Fascist China!
Go home, China!
Go home China!
China, stop the genocide!
China stop the genocide!
China, stop the genocide!
China stop the genocide!
Stand up for Uyghurs!
Stand up for Uyghurs!
Stand up for Uyghurs!
Stand up for Uyghurs!
Stand up for Uyghurs!
Stand up for Uyghurs!
Justice for Uyghurs!
Justice for Uyghurs!
Independence for Uyghurs!
Independence for Uyghurs!
Freedom for Uyghurs! Freedom for East Turkestan!
Freedom for East Turkestan!
Justice for East Turkestan!
Justice for East Turkestan!
Independence for East Turkestan!
Independence for East Turkestan!
We want freedom!
We want freedom!
We want freedom!
We want freedom!
We want justice!
We want justice! Justice!
We want independence!
We want independence!
We want independence!
Independence!
We want independence!
We want independence!
Get out, China!
Get out China!
Go home, China!
Go home China!
Terrorist China!
Terrorist China!
Fascist China!
Fascist China!
Terrorist China!
Terrorist China!
Fascist China!
Fascist China!
Go home, China!
Go home China!
Stand up for the Uyghurs!
Stand up for Uyghurs!
Stand up for Uyghurs!
Stand up for Uyghurs!
Stand up for Uyghurs!
Stand up for Uyghurs!
Stand up for East Turkestan!
Stand up for East Turkestan!
Stand up for East Turkestan!
Stand up for East Turkestan!
We want independence.
We want independence.
We want independence.
We want
Justice.
We need justice.
That concludes our protest commemorating the Baarin massacre. Thank you all for coming, and thank you for supporting and backing East Turkestan. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers. We need some pictures. If you come together and stay together, we need to take some pictures.